decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Okay, in front of you is the agenda for today's meeting. I ask for that the agenda be approved.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes of the September 12, 2016 Traffic and Parking Commission are attached. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a first
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're now going to move for approval of the consent agenda. Please note that items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate those items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the items be removed from the consent agenda. Yes, ma'am.
Item B,
Okay.
that be removed from the consent agenda.
Authorize always stop on Aberdeen Road and Mockingbird Road. Okay.
There was a meeting about a week and a half ago, and this item was supposed to be removed from the agenda.
Okay. All right.
Diane, what's the outcome of the meeting?
Wait, we're not, are we talking about the same thing? We're talking about item B we need to discuss. Item D, I think you're talking about needs to be removed.
Which one are we?
D. B stays as non-consent,
Yeah, I'm not talking about
and
Okay.
D gets removed from the agenda.
D,
Correct, D,
authorize no parking on the east side?
yes.
Okay, that's the one that needs to be removed. Okay,
I was asking for Mockingbird, the stop sign at Aberdeen, item B is in boy, to be off the consent agenda.
okay. And we have D that needs to be off the consent agenda as
Correct,
well.
yes.
All right, if someone would make a motion for that, then what we'll do is we'll consider those items separately.
We need a motion from a commissioner to,
There's one more, though. On E, I have a question, a clarification on that item. So if we could go ahead and remove that as well.
Okay,
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with changes to removing items B and E and completely removing item D from the consent agenda.
okay.
So
We have-
items B and D for discussion.
All right,
E
we have
for
a
discussion.
first and a second.
Second.
First, do we have a first? Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All right.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. All right. What I'd like to do is to, at this point in time, before we go through the items of the consent agenda and the three items removed, is Councilwoman Erica Gilmore is here. And what we'll do is we'll go to your item first, okay? And then we'll go back to the consent agenda and the three items, okay? All right. If you would like to come forward and speak, please.
Principal as well to come forward with me.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all commission members. I appreciate each of you giving your time, and each one of you are such fine citizens of the city. I know you prior to this, so it's an honor to have you to serve on this. We appreciate you. So what I'm requesting is a traffic signal for 16th and Joe Johnston, and I have the principal, Dr. McShepherd Ray, with me here as well. And she shared with me the concern for the safety of the students. There's a lot of construction going on. They just did a expansion at Martin Luther King, and now the students' parking is down at 16th Avenue. So I don't know if it reflects the updated. There's actually a parking lot there now. So there's a lot of traffic there in the morning, in the evening, throughout the day. And we just want them to remain safe. And now I will let Dr. McShepherd Ray speak as well.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Angela McShepherd Ray, and I'm the principal at Martin Luther King Jr. Academic Magnet High School. And we have had this parking lot since mid-August, and it is a block away from the school. It's not within eyesight of the school. There are trees, and of course, it's on the other side of Watkins Park. And so we have students that park there in the morning and in the afternoons, and there's a crossing guard there. But on numerous occasions when I have gone down to the parking lot just to check and speak with the crossing guard, he has communicated to me over and over that we need a stop sign here, and given me many examples on traffic and how there were near accidents at that corner. And so I approached and asked Councilwoman at Large Gilmore if she could assist me with this, and that's why we're here. It's all about the safety of the students and making sure that they are getting to the school safe in the morning, and then of course getting home safely once they park their cars, and then of course exit the parking lot.
All right. Chip, do you have any
Yeah, I do.
insights, please?
A little bit, yeah. We did the usual data collection. We count vehicles, we count cars, we look for pedestrians, we look at crashes. Pretty much in a nutshell what we do. And this particular intersection, as there you see about 2,600, 2,700 vehicles per day. It does not meet the threshold for signal warrant, but it does have crashes. 10 crashes in a 2-year period on the bottom of the slide there. There are 10 crashes that we feel like could be corrected by some kind of traffic control, whether it be an always stop or a traffic signal. From a traffic engineering standpoint, they would both accomplish what we want to do, assign right-of-way control. The number of cars would not overwhelm an always stop. You would get your pedestrian control and your stops, and it would be quicker and cheaper. And I know that's not something the commission should consider. Timelines and budgets are not something you look at, but you have to think about that. So this is a prime candidate for an always stop because of the distribution. We always look for that 50-50 split on volume, and you couldn't get much better than that on this. With that said, it's such a low volume that it wouldn't be detrimental to put in a traffic signal either. So I'm really with the council lady. If she wants a signal there, we'll get you one built. It's going to take a while if you want to try and always stop while we get it designed and built, because we're looking at probably a year for a traffic signal just because of the design process. Getting the poles in is 4 months by itself. Just being honest with you, that the signal will take a lot longer. You could get it by the time you get out of school this year. And so if you want some traffic control in the interim, stop signs are in stock right now. And so I'm just being honest with you that it meets stop sign warrants more so than it meets signals. I'm willing to go either way as far as my opinion on it. If you want it soon and you want to watch it, maybe that's an idea. Watch the always stop, see how it's going, and then we come back before the commission and see if a traffic signal is an idea. I'm willing to go either way. I'm just letting you know that a signal takes so long these days. Even once approved by the commission, it does go through a design process, and it takes a while, and if you need a control right now, we could have stop signs very soon.
Chip, question. Would the four-way stop have those stop signs that are painted red, that are the new stuff you all are doing?
It's a reflective strip you can put on the post. Yes, ma'am, we could do that.
And would it help to paint stop, coming up?
Chet Atkins way is where we do that.
Thank you for the Chet Atkins stuff.
Yeah, we could. There's all kinds of little add-ons you can do. Stop ahead signs, stop written on the pavement. If it gets to be an extreme sight distances, you could put overhead flashers and beacons. Oversized stop signs, we could go 36 by 36 instead of whatever. But all that's on the table if people are running the stop sign, and we could do it out there. I don't want to clutter your school either with a whole bunch of stuff you don't need. So I'm just, whatever you'd like to do as far as traffic control, we can see the need. 10 crashes, we want to do something. We need to do something. If you want a signal, we can start the design process. It's probably going to be 6 months to a year before you get something built out there. Stop signs within a month.
So is there a way we can have a transition, like have the stop signs and then transition into the stoplights? Or do y'all recycle signs, or are we?
Yeah, certainly we do. Certainly we could. It would be at the approval of this commission if you want to put some kind of stop signs until. Teresa, can we do that? Can we put a stipulation such as stop signs in place until the signal's ready to go? We do that all the time. We replace stop signs all the time with signals. I just didn't know I've never seen it done with this commission.
It seems to me that we could. I mean, I think they'd have to make a fact finding that both were justified. But I mean,
How
they
about-
have the authority to do either, so it seems like they would have the authority to do both, arguably.
And it could be you put a stipulation on there that we come back in 6 months or whatever it is with new data. Did the crashes go away? And are the kids crossing safely? And then you make a decision on a signal. That's up to this commission, but
So a motion could be made to do a four-way stop here. Is that correct, Counselor?
Yes.
Okay. And then the traffic signal could maybe be deferred?
deferred or
Keep-
it-
Sure.
Or add
that
or
would be
part of your
another
motion, yeah.
option.
Okay.
And
So-
do we have any data about how many people are crossing or biking? I know it's also the Music City Bikeways. Are the count data only for cars?
We only put a tube out for cars for this one, and that's how we got the 2,600, but you probably have an idea of how many students you have crossing there every morning. It's probably significant that they've got a crossing guard there.
Well, let me ask you this, is there another elementary or middle school somewhere nearby?
Head Middle Magnet is down the street, but of course they're middle school, so they're not. Well, I will say this, because I've been in the parking lot when students are arriving. So there are some students that could come in with their older siblings that are driving and then walk down. Right.
Is there guards for?
Um,
Guard is probably assigned to head.
not at that location. They would have to go through two crossing guards to get to Head. So there's a crossing guard there, then there's one at the corner of, in front of the school on 17th, and then there's one in, literally, it's the bend of Joe Johnston.
Correct. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is the count coming from the crossing guard section would be based on head. They do, because they don't assign crossing guards to high schools. So what it is he assigned a head to assist the kids. So, because it really doesn't matter if we need 4 crossing guards per school, if a school only needs 1. We base it on where the kid's coming from, how many intersections they have to cross. So we could probably, in a few days or by next meeting, get you a count on the number of kids that are crossing at that intersection that she's speaking of that are going to Head. But obviously, we would need the number of children, kids that are attending MLK as well.
Also, there are, just so you know, there are 3 crossing guards right now that are assigned just to Martin Luther King, to let you know the volume and just to how they control it. So that's quite a bit. And the 3 are between, there's one right in front of the school because of Watkins. Right now, Watkins is closed as well, too, and I don't know if that'll have an impact because that community center is closed and they have half of that parking shut down, just so you know. And then there's the one at 17th and Joe Johnston, and then there's the other crossing guard that is at 16th and Joe Johnston. So that's quite a few. So I think the schools are trying
I think, out of respect of your time coming back in X number of months, we approve the always stop and the signal, and then let it be on, the burden be on us to come back and say why we wouldn't put the signal in, and then you make another vote on that. So for now, you'd still have both in place, and you wouldn't have to deal with it anymore for now.
Okay, yeah. We just want the kiddos to be safe.
Yes,
We do too.
absolutely.
Yes.
So do someone want to modify the?
Sure. So we want to modify the request for a signal at the intersection of Joe Johnson and 16th Avenue to a stop sign with a future signal this next year, unless staff comes back and shows that it's unwarranted.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Do we need a hand vote?
I'm a little scared of one word you said. It said in there, unwarranted. It's not going to meet warrants even 6 months from now, so be careful with that word in there.
Okay.
Say everything you just said except for unless staff comes
Needed?
back and presents a case or something.
Then
But if you
presents a
say
case?
comes back unwarranted, that
Okay,
it's
all
gonna
right.
come
I think
back
that would
unwarranted.
be kind of a non-delegable decision on the part of the commission, so I think it would actually have to maybe come back before you, unless you're making the finding that it's warranted now. I think you would pretty much have to, I guess it would be deferral maybe, like
All right.
the vice chairman suggested, because if you find that both the stop sign and the traffic signal are warranted now, then you can go ahead and order them both progressively. But if you're kind of wanting to wait and give some time for the data to come in on the signal, then I think you'd really sort of be deferring that.
I see. And I'd like to make a motion to approve stop sign and the signal at Joe Johnson and 16th.
Thank you so much. And so do we come back in 6 months? Do we get a notice in 6 months?
Just call me and say, where's my signal? We have this
Okay.
approved.
So
All right, then.
We have a first and a second
Do we
on
need a hand vote?
on the stops. Okay.
This is right.
So we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion passed.
Thank you so much. We appreciate each one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Principal, and thank you, Council Lady.
And could I suggest one more clarification? Would you all also be providing that the stop sign would be removed once the signal is installed?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. We're going to return to the consent agenda as it's been modified.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I do have a request from the audience that we jump to old business number 1.
Okay, we
If
will
that's
do
okay
that.
with the commission. It's
Yes.
just a request.
We'll be glad to do that. Old business is assignment agreement and second amendment to the parking agreement for the Stallman Building's tenants' usage of 175 spaces in the courthouse public square parking garage.
You got anything to add, Tom? Is it agreed upon, or? We're okay with approval. We're recommending approval unless something's happened that we don't know about. It's been in place before. This was just a renewal.
It's in District 1, it's Councilman O'Connell, he supported it, we request your approval.
How long is this approval? What is these approved annually?
The original approval on the original agreement that we had for the 175 spaces, the first approval was for 40 years.
Okay.
And then this one would be for 4 years?
This one is for the remaining part of the 40 years, 40 years, so it's, there's a transfer of the building, obviously the parking rights need to go with it, so it's the exact same 40 years. It's just tailored so that the remaining part goes with the building.
Okay, so it's an assignment of a lease. Is that what we really have here in essence? Assignment of a lease agreement?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. So is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a first? We have a second. Is there further discussion?
So to get a copy of this agreement, I guess it's on file then, that staff has, and
Is that it right there? It is online, and we can send you on BL 2005-522. And Metro IT or whoever does a really good job of putting all their legislation online. Oh,
and you said it's received Council O'Connell's approval as part of, does I understand?
The councilman has agreed to it. It actually will be in the form of a resolution which will come up before the council a week from tomorrow around the 18th.
And how many years into the 4 years are we? You mentioned it already.
Original agreement was 2005.
Correct. So I believe we are now 14 years, excuse me, 5. We're now.
I think we're 10 years into
It looks like 10 years into it and
10
extending
years
it another
into it.
40 years.
40 years?
40.
40.
40.
40.
40.
40.
Okay.
It's the exact same agreement with Metro government. It's just that it is being assigned to a purchaser of the building.
Okay.
It doesn't extend the term at all.
Okay. All right. So
Out of curiosity, could you send us that out at some point? I'm curious, does the building, is paying for the parking, paying the city for it? Okay. And since we've discussed changing of rates in that parking lot generally, has there any change happened since 2005, or are the rates the same?
the rates are the same. Well, private agreements are what they are, but they're the same as far as I know. But whenever someone sells or changes a lease, any agreements that are tied to that building get looked at by council, even if it's just the name of the tenant, the name of the owner, the name of the leasee. You're probably very familiar with how that process works. But so this is just, they've sold the building or leasing it to someone else, and any agreements tied to that building need to be modified through council. So we can send you a copy of it. The length of the term doesn't change. The price is tied to it. Any agreements between the private parties, which wouldn't be us, as far as I know, doesn't change. But it does have to go through council to swap the ownership.
it is strictly an assignment of lease. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, we have a first and a second. Were you ready to vote? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The resolution passes. Thank you, Mr. White. Mr. Matthews? Okay. All right. On the consent agenda, item number 1, proposal number 2016M021AB 001, a request to abandon an 8-foot wide by 175 linear foot strip and associated easement along the east margin of 13th Avenue South right-of-way between Ziegler Street and alley number 421, requested by Dell and Associates, Inc., the applicant, Angela B. Banks, owner. Ordinance number BL 2016-389 to amend the name of a portion of Buchanan Street on the west side of I-65 between the end of Delta Avenue and 9th Avenue North to Delta Avenue. Ordinance number BL 2016-390 to amend the name of a portion Garfield Street to Buchanan Street from Delta Avenue across from I-65 to 9th Avenue North. Resolution 09-16, authorized traffic signal at Neely Bend Road at Cheyenne Boulevard. Authorize an all-way stop on Thunderbird Drive at Starliner Drive. Modify existing yield to stop sign on Olivia Drive at Luker Lane. Modify speed limit from 40 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour on Swinging Bridge Lane from Burnett Road to Bridgeway Drive. And H, modify no parking signs on 3rd Avenue North from Joe Johnston Avenue to Rosa L. Parks Boulevard from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a first.
Second?
We have a first and a second. I think this takes a hand vote. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? The consent agenda passes as modified. Okay. We had a request from an audience member concerning an all-way stop at Aberdeen Road and Mockingbird Road. Would you like to come forward, please, ma'am, and speak about your concern?
Yes.
Please state your name and your address, please, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for your service to Nashville. I'm Margot Chambers. I live at 3803 Princeton Avenue, which is the same street as Aberdeen, only 3 blocks to the east. I was asking you to not vote on this item until Public Works could present the traffic studies that were done to warrant the addition of this traffic control device, because I'm concerned about safety. I wanted to know if Public Works could follow their own procedures, like do the traffic volume studies and the things that I saw for when Council Lady Gilmore was here. That was great. So we were looking for that. I had heard a mention that Diane said there was a neighborhood meeting. I'm technically in a neighborhood, I'm very close, it's a borderline between Cherokee Park and Richland West End neighborhood. But the street is affected by 2 neighborhoods, and there was no mention in Council Lady Murphy's newsletter about it. She just said she forgot to mention it, and I had spoken to a couple of neighbors that are right near the intersection, and they weren't aware of it either. So we're looking for the facts and the studies, and before you vote on it, let's see. I'm worried that there's a pattern of irregular stops at this area. Cherokee Park is known for the number of non-full stops. So, and the only thing that was the problem that the Public Works engineer mentioned was a 300 site-foot distance obstruction. If you're on Mockingbird and you're looking left on Aberdeen, there was an obstruction of a few boxwoods at 4101 Aberdeen, but nobody had asked that property owner if they could trim their boxwoods, and the engineer thought that would be adequate. If you go, those boxwoods right there. if you pull up, if you're on Mockingbird, which is a very low-volume street, I might add, those boxwoods are the site obstruction. Now, there's also a fire hydrant right there, right behind those boxwoods. There's a lot of on-street parking on this street. There's a lot of pedestrians that do walk it, because it's not too far from the Richland Creek Greenway. But I'm just wondering why the purpose of the traffic study, I mean, the purpose of the traffic control would be probably to control the turning of the vehicles. But if it's, I would think pedestrian and parking would be a bigger need for improvement at this area, but that could probably be discussed in a neighborhood meeting. Is there any other questions? I have a Public Works document about all-way stops that I found online, and it talked about what I actually agree with, minus the studies in the neighborhood discussion, that unjustified all-way stops could actually cause more harm. And because it causes drivers to tend to ignore stop signs that aren't beneficial at that area. The Public Works engineer had mentioned there's very little volume coming out of Mockingbird. So I don't know if you need this or.
Thank you for your time for coming today.
All right.
Chip, can you provide some illumination, please?
She makes some very good points. Very low volume. We had a request from Council Lady Murphy to, and I assume she was at a neighborhood meeting and she was just passing it along. But anyway, she gave us a request to look at putting an all-way stop at Mockingbird and Aberdeen. And so we did this same thing, count cars, look at accidents, look at sight distance. 64 vehicles pass through this intersection in peak hour, very low volume, doesn't meet warrants for a stop when you look at that. Crash history, none there, doesn't meet warrants for that. But then, Corby, these pictures I took today, I happened to be out there today. When you look at the sight distance, and I don't have my bearings, east and west, whatever it is, that brush, that shrubbery, that landscaping has grown and it looks pretty good, but it does block your sight distance. So now we either have to remove somebody's mailbox and bushes or put in an all-way stop. Or we could probably put in a crossroad warning sign. That is a remedy you could do, that side roads coming up. But we've got to do something, and it being today is the day I went out there, and this request is fairly new. We have not had time to work with the neighbor on removing the bushes. I can tell you how that's going to go, probably, or you can imagine. So I agree with everything you just said about the volume and the need and people that don't want stop signs in their front yard, and are we using it for speeding? We don't want that. We presented that brochure ourselves. We published that. So what we could do is always stop, side road warning sign, talk to the neighbor about the bushes, and then introduce this area into the traffic calming program. Benny, is it already part of the traffic calming program? Do you know Aberdeen, Mockingbird area?
I'm not really familiar with it as well, but I mean, as always, we can take it into account and take a look at it and see if there's anything we can do.
So now we've got a liability issue on our hands. If we don't do something today, we've been presented with, I'm sitting here saying there's a sight distance issue. I'll at very minimum put a warning sign out there. It's just what I've got to at least do that. So if okay with everyone here, we defer it while I get the sign and we talk to the neighbor, see what he wants to do. He or she may have plans to take down the bushes already. I don't know. But it's come up so fast that we have not talked to the neighbors, and I think that's what I hear you want us to at least do. So can we get a deferral on this one? Research the bushes and put up a side road warning sign.
I move to defer.
We have a first.
And I guess you can put up a warning sign without approval from this commission, but
Correct.
I wanted to stipulate that we recommend a warning sign go out as soon as possible. Okay, great.
You second the motion? We have a first and a second.
Can you put a timeline on your deferral? Is it indefinite or 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever you want?
Okay.
I would like to hear from the councilwoman, if it's possible for her to be involved. If
1 month? Is that what you said?
If she brought that up, if we need to defer it, to keep her in the loop.
Make a deferral for 30 days.
Make a
For 1
motion
month.
to defer this for 30 days with including a warning sign. Right.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you for coming today. Okay. All right. Ms. Favre, you wanted to discuss
Yes, I believe this.
item E.
Yes, on E, remove the no turn on red sign on 42nd Avenue at Charlotte Avenue. You know, we've got a lot of pedestrians. We see, that, you know, these removal of a no turn sign. So I just wanted to, it sounds like it's part of a bigger plan, and I just wanted to understand a little bit more about that intersection and the need for this change.
It's, well, thank you for thinking it's part of a bigger plan. There's really not much. We appreciate it.
It's all.
No, there's been some changes around there, you're right. There used to be a place there that employed sight-impaired employees, workers.
Yes.
And they have closed, relocated, and the reason we put the no turns on red up in the first place were for the sight-impaired pedestrians. And we've had a request from a user, motorist, to remove the no turn on red. We researched the sight-impaired housing and the business, and they're no longer there. And there's another business there that doesn't like the cuckoos and chirps that go along with the signals that we have in the area. So we're trying to, the whole area is being modified, and we're trying to work with all the businesses going in there. And one solution right now is to remove the no turn on reds because of the changes at the sight-impaired business. That was the real reason. The closure of the business on the corner that had blind.
I remember that one. Okay. All right. Ms. Favre.
Well, I guess you're seeing a lot less than pedestrian travel on that area as well. You know what's going back
In
into
some
that
ways,
site? Yeah,
I don't know
just
what's
not
going on that
familiar
side, but there's a lot of restaurants popping up well, it's really further west, but no, I don't know what's going in that area as far as businesses go. When you put up no turn on reds, you're right, it's for pedestrians, cyclists, and sight distance, or collisions that would be happening on right turns. And we've looked for pedestrians out there, and they really have been reduced. We could keep it on our radar as far as looking for cyclists and pedestrian volume, and there are no crashes out there.
Yeah, well, I feel like most pedestrians, they are looking, knowing that motorists can turn right on red, they're aware of that, and they're watching for it, but, you always worry about changes and things like that. I also understand there's a balance between cars just sitting there, when there's no one coming, and that they could make that right.
Violations, you're right about that. So
Yeah.
just FYI at this point, we're starting to do more leading pedestrian intervals at signals, and this would be a good candidate for what they call an LPI, where the walk signal comes on before the traffic signals come on. Those seem to be more effective than any other no right on red that gets violated. So
Yeah, I'm glad
there are
you
other
said
things we could
that.
try.
Yeah, well, and we appreciate all the great work you're doing on that issue. So I think with this, just understanding it more was really important for me. So with that, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Well, and I had one last question on,
Yes.
Is there currently a pedestrian activated signal at that spot? Because allowing right turns at red would decrease the number of signal cycles potentially, right?
Did you ask are there buttons there for pedestrians?
Are there
Yes.
buttons? Yeah. Okay.
There are.
And how long is the wait for the pedestrian if they hit, but do you have any idea?
It changes during the day. You're talking about the cycle length for the signal.
Yeah.
In the mornings, this is purely guess, but educated guess, I bet 90 seconds, so you probably wait about 70 seconds to get, if you arrived at the end of their pedestrian signal and said, man, I just missed it, you might have to wait up to 70 during rush hour, lunchtime or off peak, or it probably goes down to 45 seconds, 40 seconds.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have a first and a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. All right, let me make sure I don't forget item 2 under new business. Loading zone, Main Street at Neal Avenue, Holiday Jones Development, Dean Design Group is the applicant.
This is a new development going in over there. The loading zone's going to be located on the west side of Neal Avenue. The loading zone is going to be 24/7.
Okay. Okay.
Is the loading zone on Neal or on Main Street?
The loading zone's on the west side of Neal.
Okay.
Is there anything about hours, Diane? I mean, are there hours of the day that this will be used? Or?
Based on the information we have received, the loading zone is going to be 24/7.
I wonder why they're not using the alley.
This is still in development phase right now, so it could change, but they're asking for approval of the commission at this time for that loading zone to be on Neal Avenue.
What is it for? I mean, you all know.
From what we're hearing, it's probably 2 or 3 years out on as far as the development itself. But the way we're starting to see things roll in, they like to get all their ducks in a row before they get too far along with their design. And so if they can have, what is this, a loading zone? If they can have on-street loading, their designs, they don't have to have a loading dock. And I don't know if this one would even need a loading dock, but we're starting to see a lot of people come in, hotels, wanting passenger loading before they design their hotel. We've had that last month with Drury. So you got any info on the
I have
property?
a copy of the design project if you would like to look at that package.
So this is a loading zone probably for something that's not there currently, because right now it's just grass.
That is correct. Their plans are to open in the spring of 2018.
I was concerned because I know that that's a very popular bus stop, and so there's a lot of people walking from the neighborhood, and there's not a sidewalk on Neal. Is that right? And so I was curious if there was any thought as to whether or not there are a lot of people walking from the neighborhood to go to that bus stop, kind of where it used to be. Well, yeah, I guess you can see it on there. How that would impact people walking from the neighborhood.
It's really hard to tell, actually.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it really depends on what development, I guess it is.
And that's a good point. Anytime, any new development, and this area is hot right now, any new development that comes in, we encourage or almost demand sidewalks. And I assume, we don't have the design in front of us, but I'd assume this will have sidewalks on Neal with a, obviously, pedestrian facilities to get to Main Street and up and down Main Street. We do not want to take the parking off Main at this time in that area. It's used quite a bit. So, I don't know, this is one of those, you might approve it now and then come back later once you see the design and say, I don't know, but the way it sits today, it's hard to tell. They just ask us to bring it to commission. Now, we can defer and have the developer come in if you'd like.
Could it be approved contingent upon seeing the design, Counselor?
I think we've tried that in the past and haven't had as much success with that because it does have to still go through council. What about
Contingent on what aspect of the design? You know, it's just,
this, seeing the site plan, but, yeah.
I think ensuring
Or
there's
planning commission
sidewalks, too.
approval, yeah.
Diane talked to the developer today, the applicant today, and she says they would be okay with coming in next month, talking about it.
I'd
Oh,
like to
that's-
make a motion to
Yes.
defer for 30 days.
I'd like that.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second to defer item number 2 under new business. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. All right. Chip, do you have anything else to add for the good of the group?
The season is upon us. We're gonna be working with Jellystone and Opry Mills and the entire area out there on some new traffic patterns. These guys are right in the middle of it, so if somebody asks, help me out here with Opry Mills and Jellystone, we're working on it.
Okay.
What is that? I know Opry Mills.
Seasonal, the lights, and Jellystone has a light show as well. It's
Jellystone is
Yogi Bear Park or whatever it's called.
adjacent to?
It's off of McGavick.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go
Very,
off
very
McGavick
popular.
And you turn back towards that other
Pennington
area,
Bend back in there.
Pennington Bend area, it's a park off to the left, and they have musical lights,
Very busy.
very busy.
And you might get the
They
question
line
of,
up.
what are you going to do for us? Well, we're trying. We're working on some things. Just so you know.
Question, what kind of feedback have you received concerning Lower Broadway with your kind of redesign, the blue painting?
We had an all-day workshop, some of us the other day with Gale Studios. Yeah, we did. And a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts, and where should we go from here? And I believe they're going to present some recommendations soon, correct?
Yeah, we have prototypes going up next week on Lower Broad, one on Second, one down at the riverfront. And they may have a couple of others elsewhere, I haven't heard, but Gail will be back in town the 19th through the 23rd, and they'll be doing data collection for this. And we're looking for volunteers for 4-hour slots to actually do interviewing with people. So if anybody's interested in spending some time finding out what people think.
I am glad you brought it up. Go to Public Works website. First thing you'll see on there is a survey of my favorite places. Take 1 minute of your time and answer that, please, and pass it along. The more data we get, the better.
Okay, great.
All right, officer.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All right. Second, it's been approved. Thank you, one and all.